Hello everyone. I welcome all of you in this new lesson, units and measurement. So we'll start with physical quantities. So physical quantities are those quantities which can be measured. For example, this pen. So the length of this pen is a measurable quantity. So therefore length is a physical quantity. Similarly, the mass of this pen is also a physical quantity because mass can be measured. There are other aspects of this pen. For example, what is the efficiency of this pen or how much I like this pen. So these are not measurable. So therefore these are not physical quantities. Physical quantities are of two types, fundamental quantities and derived quantities. So fundamental quantities are those physical quantities whose measurement does not depend on other physical quantities. For example, mass, length, time, electric current, temperature, luminous intensity and amount of substance. So remember, the measurement of these physical quantities does not depend on other physical quantities. Therefore, these physical quantities are called fundamental quantities. There are other physical quantities, for example, velocity, force, momentum, density, acceleration, etc. The measurement of these physical quantities, it depends on other physical quantities. So therefore, these physical quantities are not fundamental quantities, rather they are derived quantities. In fact, all physical quantities besides these seven fundamental quantities are derived quantities. Now units. Every physical quantity has unit. For example, length of this pen. Now since length is a physical quantity, so we can have so many units of length. For example, millimeter, centimeter, kilometer, light year and so on. So this millimeter, centimeter, kilometer, meter, light years, they are all units of length, and the choice of one particular unit depends on convenience. Similarly, mass. So we know that mass is a physical quantity. So we can have so many units of mass, for example, gram, kilogram, ton, quintal, etc. So all these are units of mass. So here also the choice of one particular unit depends on convenience. Just like physical quantities were either fundamental physical quantities or derived physical quantities. Similarly, units are also fundamental units. So either they are fundamental units or derived units. The units of fundamental physical quantities, as we can see in the first page, the units of the fundamental physical quantities, like the unit of mass, length, time, electric current, temperature, luminous intensity and amount of substance. So the units of the fundamental physical quantities are called fundamental units, whereas the units of derived physical quantities are called derived units. Now why the units of these fundamental physical quantities are called fundamental units? Because, so let us take the example of length here. So length is a fundamental physical quantity. So similarly, the unit of length is meter. Now this is a fundamental unit because we cannot resolve this unit into some other simpler units. Similarly, mass, the unit of mass is kilogram. So this is in its simplest form, so we cannot resolve it further or we cannot simplify it. So let us take one more example. Suppose force. So as we know, the force is a derived physical quantity, as we saw earlier. So the unit of force is kg meters per second square. As we can see in the expressions here, the unit of this force, kg meters per second square. So in simplicity, we call this as Newton also. It can be resolved, it can be further simplified, or it can be further resolved. So therefore force is a derived physical quantity. So similarly, the unit of force is derived units. So we may take the example of speed also. The unit of speed is meters per second. As we can see in the expression, so it has the units of two physical quantities. One is meter, another one is seconds here. So therefore, the unit of speed is a derived unit. The unit of force is also a derived unit, whereas the units of the seven fundamental physical quantities, they are the seven fundamental physical quantities. So they are fundamental units. Now system of units. We have a four system of units. Number one, CGS system, FPS system, MKS system and SI system. In CGS system, we measure length in centimeter, mass in gram, and time in seconds. In FPS system, we measure length in foot, mass in pound, and time in seconds. In MKS system, we measure length in meter, mass in kilogram, and time in seconds. And the one that we normally use in our textbook is SI system. So SI is a French word whose English translation is International System of Units. In SI system, so it's given here, the 7 physical fundamental quantities: length, mass, time, temperature, electric current, luminous intensity, and quantity of matter. The SI unit of length is meter, SI unit of mass is kilogram, SI unit of time is seconds, SI unit of temperature is Kelvin, SI unit of electric current is ampere, luminous intensity is candela, and quantity of matter is mole.